Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel where we talk about stuff. Don't forget to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I make daily I don't know what I'm doing. Daily cryptocurrency news about everything that's going on. There's too much going on. No, you know how like a lot of times we're like, I'm making a video and I go, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff going on. But the last 2 weeks have been a little crazy because we've anticipated all of this for so long, but now it's like a literal avalanche of like news about everything. You couldn't begin to imagine how absolutely insane everything is right now. Rumors are circulating that something big is going on. I'm going to go backwards and I'm going to go forwards and then I'm going to go even more forwards into the future. We know for a fact that companies are buying Bitcoin. Everyone still with me? Probably not. We know for a fact that ETF issuers and hedge funds are buying large amounts of Bitcoin. Got it? We know for a fact that there are around, it's estimated between 9 to 12 different countries currently who are buying and mining Bitcoin. There were, I think, 3 or 4 about 5 years ago who announced that because of U.S. sanctions and they couldn't do anything outside of the U.S. dollar, that they were actively, you can Google it, they were actively using Bitcoin for imports and exports to be able to get stuff in and out of their country. The thing was, is I remember being like, well, you can accept it for going one way, but like the other country also has to be accepting it as well. Then we started to hear, aside from those countries, we started to hear about Bhutan. We started to hear about Brazil and Florida. So that is to say all of Brazil and Florida, the state. And was it Arizona? All 3 at the exact same time. It was Rio and San something who announced that their mayors were going to start accumulating Bitcoin as like some kind of a reserve asset, if you will, like part of the state's treasury kind of thing. Then that became El Salvador announcing that Bitcoin was legal tender, the Central African Republic announcing that Bitcoin was legal tender. And then apparently there were like 2 other countries who were on the cusp of also announcing as well. We know that the US has hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin already that they've procured over the last decade or so from websites and things that they deemed illegal, and they basically took the money that those those websites had for themselves. I think the US has over 200,000 Bitcoin. I think China has 138,000. So I don't know why that sticks out in my head. The other part being also, don't forget, China's also mining Bitcoin. China is actively trying to get huge amounts of Bitcoin. We know that to be true because we heard back in 2019, I made a video in summertime because the news was someone was running through the streets declaring that Bitcoin was no longer banned in China. And I was like, it was never banned in China. The news from the States kept on saying that you could no longer even touch Bitcoin in China. The actual news is that anyone can own Bitcoin. You just have to buy it over the counter. There are like actual dedicated spaces that you have to go to. You show them your ID, you show them yourself, and you say, hey, I want to buy $500 worth of Bitcoin. And they go, okay, and they transfer it to you. And when you want to sell it, you have to you don't have to go back to the same place, but you basically sell it at an OTC counter. What is, as far as we know, illegal is using it as a form of legal tender and like speculative trading on it in some sort of way. There's like really weird rules. That article also was like, Bitcoin mining is no longer banned. Bitcoin mining was never banned in China. What was banned is what they deemed to be illegal places. A lot of China is still actively quite rural. And the news that we received is that many people, companies, whatever, were kind of like going into like the middle of nowhere and siphoning off of electricity from different grids. And then eventually they were found out, and the government was like, what the fudge is going on? And basically told everyone who wanted to do it that you basically had to have special permits. Those permits cost money. And basically it's only larger companies who are doing so. A lot of these companies are also like owned by the government, and also the government themselves are also mining Bitcoin as well. It's just the logical step. And I need to preface this as well by also saying it is abundantly clear to anyone with a brain that the US has been buying and mining their own crypto for a very long time. This idea that people have that Bitcoin is so magical and special that the government is, oh no, my gosh, it's too bright, I can't look at it, that they're just not paying attention. That's not how money works. If Fidelity and BlackRock and other central banks and world banks and institutions and hedge funds have been buying Bitcoin since 2014, do you think the US doesn't have their own stash already? So remember, like going back in time? Now we're currently right around here. What's happening now is the expectation that Donald Trump announced that the US is also going to have their own reserve of Bitcoin. Senator Cynthia Loomis recently announced as well that she's putting forth a bill that will kind of like make it into law, essentially. The idea being that the U.S. would accumulate over the course of a 5-year period 100,000 Bitcoin to 20,000 Bitcoin per year. I nearly want to say the perfect article because it sums up exactly what I was thinking. The article says, "Herein lies the problem, my friends. The United States has essentially telegraphed to the world that it intends to buy an asset that is the scarcest asset that we've ever had on the planet. Let me tell you this. Bitcoin is rare. Bitcoin is finite. We know for a fact that it's around 95% of Bitcoin over the course of the last 15 years has been accumulated by very wealthy people. Remember when I told you, like, right here, still not at the future. Where we are right now is that rumors are abound. Some of the richest people in the cryptocurrency space have other rich friends who are usually also the presidents, dictators of countries. And a number of them the news that we have now is that it's 5 who are trying to front run the US before January begins to start accumulating as much Bitcoin as they possibly can. He who holds the most Bitcoin holds the most power, has the most money. If you find a way to front run the richest country on the planet, you end up in first place. Like I said, these are the rumors, but we also know that it's true because we've heard for over a decade that other countries are already like buying. But apparently these like spikes in price that you've been seeing are apparently from these countries. They're buying up huge amounts every single day. And I'm not talking about allocations into Bitcoin ETFs. No. Like they're buying like spot from crypto exchanges through like third parties who like the wallet address doesn't say. One of them is supposed to be, 2 of them are supposed to be Saudi Arabia and Dubai. The wallet address isn't like, hey, it's not Dubai, I promise. Like it says like some other thing, and these coins are just simply being transferred around and or locked away. The issue is that other countries are trying to actively right now trying to front run this like massive trade. Because if the US ends up doing it, essentially Canada's going to do it. Mexico will do it. Venezuela will start to do it. How much money do you have to be able to accumulate? The other issue is, and this can't be overstated in any sort of way, there's barely any Bitcoin left even for billions of people on the planet. Do you understand when I say the number's 95%? What happens if the US starts, like, No, we're making a reserve. The other countries announced like we're also doing it. We're making Bitcoin legal tender. And then 16 other companies in countries jump onto like, do you understand that there will be no Bitcoin left? I think whoever said it, and I think it's going to happen. I give it, no, like really, I give it like 6 to 8 months. Like by next summer, I think cycles are over. If you missed that news earlier this year, someone said they think that cycles, you know, like how we have these like 4-year cycles, price goes down for 2 years, price go up for 2 years, price go down for 2 years. They said the levels of accumulation they said this earlier this year, just from the ETFs. They said the level of accumulation just from the ETFs is showing them that once Bitcoin goes past $200,000, $300,000, you need to have Bitcoin in your portfolio as a hedge fund, as a company, as an anything. If anyone decides to sell, those coins are gone like in a second. There's tons of buy orders to make sure that anyone selling their Bitcoin is, excuse my French, poop out of luck. Those coins now belong to a company who's never going to relinquish them. We are witnessing the literal grabification of all the Bitcoin that there actually is. Next year's going to be ridiculous. A lot of the price predictions, without going too deep into them, there are people who are predicting if the US announces that they're going to make an actual Bitcoin reserve and it kicks off, that Bitcoin's going to $1 million next year. That's not a joke. Remember the price predictions that we were getting if the ETFs continue to accumulate large amounts of Bitcoin, we'd get to a $500,000 coin because of how scarce the asset actually is. If we hear that the largest economy on the planet is actively going to be buying tens of thousands of Bitcoin every single year, every other country is going to do the exact same thing for an asset that is barely available. There's not a lot of Bitcoin even on crypto exchanges. We are in for a wild ride next year. I hope that everyone's been paying attention to everything that I've been saying. I said this recently in another video. I will repeat it. If basically what I said was, if you have stuff in your house that you don't need, that you don't want, that's just sitting there. A lot of people have a lot of knickknacks and tic tacs and rip wraps and all these other things around their houses that shouldn't be there or whatever. I told you this earlier this year. I was like, sell them, get rid of them and start buying assets with them. I hope you paid attention. I hope you can still do so, because if Bitcoin gets to $1 million next year, it's basically game over for anyone who doesn't have crypto. That's not like a joke, because if it hits $1 million in 2025, in 2030, it's at $6-7 million. By the time we get to the 2040s, Bitcoin's at $30 million US, and there's no one selling. You can't like relinquish your Bitcoin. Like we then enter a world that is just revolved around Bitcoin, hyper Bitcoinization. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds insane. We've been talking about this for a long time. Everything we talked about 6 years ago is happening right now. This is like one of the final steps. So if people don't pay attention, I don't know what to tell you anymore. I hope you've all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.